The root problem for most singers from a technique lens is this. We can't isolate the muscles that help us change pitch. Because when we try to engage them, often we have to engage a lot of extra other muscles, muscles that help us sing with more power, or maybe we disengage them and we have to flip in order to get higher. And so often with my students, we have to relearn this relationship between pitch and everything else that's involved in singing. And what that means is usually we'll have to start off with a clean slate. Now, I'm going to break down what I mean by a clean slate and two ways in which you can practice and build your voice properly. And to help you understand this, I've actually got a lesson where I guide a student through this process. By the way, if you're interested in improving your voice with less of the headaches, I do work with students from all around the world. Links are down in the description. Anyway, I hope this lesson helps. Catch me up. What's been happening, man?
All good.
Yes.
I think I feel like I'm straining by the time I get to sharp, the D sharp, and then, but then like also like if I was to, isolate the sound, it doesn't sound that bad. Although it feels like I'm straining, it just adds more kind of almost like a little core to it,
Okay.
and then has a bit more energy, but there's no scope for me to go like the slightest pitch higher.
Okay. Yes. So if we come back to things like, are we stretching or closing, keeping the chords closed? Do you know what's slipping though? Like, as in like, okay, it's normal for it to feel maybe like, oh, it might be strained here and there. Maybe it feels like you don't have scope, but do you know what you need to focus on to get it to the next thing? Or is it like, I'm not sure.
From what I feel like, as I get to that kind of range,
Yeah.
there's too much air, which means there's too much pressure, which then means the chords need to close harder
Yeah.
against it. But then trying going quiet, I just flip.
And then you say, okay, yep. Okay,
So
cool.
if I lighten off the pressure, I just flip.
Yeah. No, that's completely normal. Okay, show me how you're approaching it, because the way to make progress is kind of like, it will be like that in a sense. Fundamentally, what we're dealing with is independence between two sets of muscles, right? We either want to stretch and lose connection, aka flip, or we want to stay connected and not be able to stretch, which is why we start to pull, start to strain. So the way forward is kind of like, can I start to create more independence, even if it's just a little bit daily? And that does take a little bit of like, okay, right now, even though maybe it's not exactly where I wanted, can I try to feel a little bit more stretch when I'm, connecting hard and I can't get through? Or otherwise, when I'm actually stretched and in more like a falsetto coordination, can I keep a little bit more closure through it? Because that's the thing that starts to like unshackle this kind of feeling of like, but anyway, show me how you're practicing. That's probably more important. By the way, what you're going through is super normal. Like everyone is working through the same challenge, but it's just how do we chip away at it meaningfully. So cool.
just don't know what to do anymore.
What do you think happened there though?
Just flipped.
And
Stretched with no closure. But like when I
yeah,
try to force closure, it's really, really forced.
try it though.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, cool. So this is kind of like the place where you actually need to be spending your time.
Okay.
So it is hard because obviously you're not able to do it as consistent or able to do it yet, right? So that's obviously the challenge. But part of the work needs to actually be here. Because, for example, when we do those, like, for example, as you're starting off with the lip bubbles and you're kind of doing all of these things, all of those exercises, if you can think about it, is really just trying to get you to this current place, which is like, okay, I can either stretch to the note and not connect, or I can connect and not stretch to the note. So those are the two kind of like areas, right?
Yep.
Once you're at that place, there kind of needs to be this kind of leap of faith, which is like, okay, how can I kind of figure out a way where they both work together? Now we'll kind of break it down even more simply, but I think in your own practice, right? When you get to this place, I wouldn't kind of shy away from it and be like, oh man, I just don't know what to do. Because in a sense, you said it yourself, right? You're like, okay, I'm stretching, but I haven't really connected yet. I'm not really connected. So the solution is, can I connect a bit more into whatever that place of falsetto is? Now, it might be tricky and you might not get it right, but that is the thing you want to be like chipping away at. It's like, how could I make that work? Because that day in, day out is what will kind of yield maybe more results versus kind of like running through the scales, getting to a certain point, and then it just breaks and then you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to do. Because that will basically just cycle. And if anything, it's actually probably reinforcing bad technique. Because what's happening is you get to a certain point, voice breaks. Don't try to solve it. And I'm not sure if that's the case. Get to a certain place, drain, and then we leave it. Because that's actually just going to reinforce to your brain, oh, this is just what technique needs to be. As opposed to you're like, oh, you're trying to unpick it. Oh, crap, I flipped that. Okay, that's fine. So I know something needs to be there because that's the stretch, right? Something needs to stay, and I need to add something to it. So I think the way I might kind of get you to see your practice just for this next week, see it this way. So the routine, your goal each day is to do two things. One, get to a clean slate. Now you're going to have two versions of clean slates here. The first one is where you can keep very even, clean closure, even if you're flat.
Okay.
Because if you're kind of like, so I'm just flat on the top note. The reason why that's good is because closure's done. Like that's what closure needs to feel like. And then your problem to solve, as you can imagine, is like, how do I get more stretch? Right? Then the problem to solve is, how do I get more stretch and get to the note without compromising this feeling of closure? Because if you listen to here, right? There's something I'm adding to it that allows me to get to the pitch, but the closure behind it still feels the same. It's not that wildly different. So that's problem number one. The other one you can do is you allow it to flip, or you kind of keep it softer, but you get stretch. The other clean slate is get full kind of stretch to the note. So even if it's like fully kind of flipped, let go in a falsetto, but at least I'm on the pitch. Then you figure out how do I connect them. So get full stretch, even if you have to flip. Then problem to solve there is, how do I connect there a little bit more? Connect there a little bit more. Now, the reason why we get you to start here is, you know how you've said like, oh, you kind of blow air and like you kind of have to force it through? Usually that's because sometimes we're not even at the clean slate. if we're not even at the clean slate, all these extra things will kind of happen, and that can kind of confuse you. I can kind of understand that. So if you're kind of aim for these as your first two goals, at least this puts you in a pretty kind of maybe like easy place to kind of start off with, and you're okay with it not fully being there. But on your own, there definitely needs to be a little bit of like, oh, I can kind of see I'm not fully there. And Ivan said it's as simple as I just need a bit more stretch. I need a bit more connection if I'm already on stretch position. How do I just get that? Kind of have to like try it on your own as well. Let's do this one. Try to get even closure even if you're flat. Let's do that first.
Okay. Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, that's pretty clean. Like,
Oh, 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 oh.
so no, there's a little bit of pushing on the air on the top. So
Oh, 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 oh.
yeah, don't sacrifice the pitch for now. Oh, 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 oh.
Oh, 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 oh.
Like, so notice how the top note, kind of like loosens a bit, kind of gets a bit softer. You do get to the note, right? But that's the beginning of where the voice starts to like fade away. So try it again.
Oh, 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 oh.
Nice. So that's clean. That's clean. That's the adjustment you need to make. But we'll take that because that one got the closure and you got to the note. So that's technically clean as well. So C sharp.
Oh, 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 oh.
Nice. Can you do it without like getting to the pitch? Just focus on like, just let it intentionally be flat for a moment.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah. Do that, but can you get the closure clean so it doesn't move? Doesn't get softer, doesn't get textured, doesn't do anything, just basically.
Oh, 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 oh.
Try it again.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, see if you can. I know it's going to be a bit tricky, but see if you can separate the pitch. It's actually kind of like almost like a false test because right now you naturally want to go to the pitch, which makes sense. But the fact that I'm asking you to not get to the pitch is actually pretty hard for you. Try it again.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, there. That's the feeling. Try it again.
Oh, oh.
Yeah, nice. So that closure is pretty clean. Now compare that to one where you do get to the pitch and see what's the thing that you actually add.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, try it again.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, nice.
Oh,
Now get to the pitch. Yeah, nice. Pretty close. So you know how, so this is you kind of like really trying to figure out what needs to happen.
Okay.
So you had a few examples there where it was like it was flat, right? But the closure was actually really solid. And then you try and do something to get to know with that closure. Like if you kind of keep trying to solve the problem this way, this is how you're like, oh, okay, I see what I need to add to get to the pitch. Versus it being this like concoction of like a bit more air, you know, I kind of let go a little bit sometimes, I kind of flip. It starts to get a bit too random. But here when you have just like, I know what closure needs to be like, then I need to find another piece of the puzzle. That's how you solve it. So try it again.
Oh, 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 oh.
Nice.
Oh, oh,
That's pretty close, but the closure slips a little bit when you go for pitch.
oh, 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 oh.
somewhere around there.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Nice. Same thing on D2. Let's go next one.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, get the closure even first.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh.
Nice. So that one closure slips a little bit, but it's still enough for you to see it. Like the closure still maintains intact, doesn't completely flip. So how does this feel to you at the moment? What's going through your mind?
I think once I've like usually because I usually end up doing lip rolls for quite a good while, even going through like going to falsetto and coming back down.
Yeah.
Then I feel like if I tried to hold as much possible as possible as like hold the closure as much as possible through the lip
Yep.
rolls, like my chords naturally come together a bit better afterward when I'm doing the O's.
Mm-hmm.
Then I get stuck at D sharp.
Right. Right.
I think the next note is a problem where like trying stuff it doesn't know like with a D eventually I can get it to quite clean,
Yep.
whereas a D sharp is either kind of flip or really force.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, the way I encourage you to see it though is that D sharp. The reason why it fails or slips is because it's already been building since the C, right?
Okay.
It's not that okay. Something about that note specifically happens because just notice like how it takes you a few tries just to even get it on the ones below, right?
Yeah.
The probably the standard to get to those D sharps E is like basically when these ones like it's like kind of like smack bang first time. Like there's less figuring out. Now we are taking a bit more of like a careful approach here by like, okay, let's just set up the kind of the clean closure first and then add stretch. The only reason behind that is like I want to paint it really clear for you, like what is it that you need to add on? Because for example, it's actually completely fine if you miss. If you kind of miss and like it doesn't work, but you can see why it doesn't work and you know the adjustment you're kind of trying to make, that's the thing that kind of makes progress, right? But if you're kind of coming from this place where you're like, oh, it kind of broke, but I don't know why. Like that's the part where like it's you're just going to go around in circles because the adjustment isn't clear enough for what it needs to be. So you're kind of just aiming a bit in the dark. You might have better reps, but you almost also don't even know why the reps are getting a bit better. So we're just trying to paint the picture in a way which is like, oh, it's pretty black and white. Once the closure's there, I just need to add some other feeling to get me to the note. And in a second, we're going to be like, okay, once I get to the note, I just need to add this feeling of getting to closure. So that ultimately, as you maybe start to do like a bit more of like a smoother kind of set, even if you miss, okay, closure is okay, but I missed the stretch. Okay, next one. Okay, slipped on the closure. Like you just have to make like quicker adjustments because you kind of know what you're looking for, but you just don't necessarily have the muscle memory for it. But right now, I'm just kind of getting into a place where like you're confident that you know what the adjustment needs to do, even though you might not know it yet. Like you might not be able to do it, execute it perfectly all the time, which is normal. But like, at least you're like, I know I just need to add a little bit more stretch, or maybe I just need to kind of like keep the chords a bit more solid, as I know, like with the lower notes. But anyway, keep going because this is actually really, really clean. The way you just like finding even thick closure, even if you're flat, and then you do something and you get to the note. I kind of want you to notice how like those two things need to exist. Like the closure needs to be solid the way you're doing it. Then when you're adding stretch, what that feeling might be for you as well. Because that's how you solve the D sharp, E, F, F sharp. It's the same thing. Try it again. Get this D, then we'll try it to D sharp.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
That was really clean throughout, but I want you to go for flat first.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Closure's good. How do you get to note? It gets to the note, but loses a little closure. the same.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, try to do it just once each. So once flat and then once going for pitch.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yeah, nice. Good. Same thing. D sharp now, just once, because otherwise, it's hard for me to tell what you're trying to do. And also, if you miss, just try it again. You don't need to
Oh, oh, oh,
Yeah, so let it go flat once and then go for pitch the second time. So two repeats.
oh, 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 oh,
Yeah, pretty close. Try it again. Yes, that's the closure. Nice. That was close. The stretch was clumsy, but it almost got to the D sharp. Try it again.
And am I meant to be like really pushing it? As in, my abdominal muscles are tensing up more.
It will engage. Yeah, you do need to try it a little bit harder. But right now it feels hard because you're number one. Typically, you just flip there, so you feel like zero attention. So because singing is kind of like in the middle. It's not obviously meant to be crazy hard where you're like about to pass out. But that complete disengagement of attention is also a bad sign because it means you've given up, right? What makes it easier is when your stretch gets better. Because as much as you feel like right now it's a closure, it's not really a closure challenge here. Because closure is not hard for you to find down low. The hard part is you combining it with stretch. That's the hard part. And as you can tell just now, you're trying to get to the note, but it didn't actually kind of fell a bit flat. That's because the stretch is clumsy, right? But the only way you can kind of work at it and build more efficiency with it is if you build it from a place like this, where you've basically set the closure. You're like, hey, this is not going to move, and then I have to figure out a way to get to the note. Whereas if you kind of like and you kind of like maybe like back off and try to get to the note that way. If you know you need to connect afterward, that's fine. But if you confuse that for like this is what I need to do to stretch and get to the note, that actually sets you back. Anyway, try it again. You're real close. So once, great closure, thick closure, and go flat. Second time, go for pitch. Nice. That's pretty clean. Close your backs for a little bit. Can you do it a bit better? Pretty good. Nice. So what did you add to get to the note beyond just more air?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's right. Try it again, and then we'll go one to the E.
Break.
It didn't break? No, it didn't. That's because your technique worked.
Okay.
Try it again. Nice. Let's go to the E. Closure could be a bit thicker. Try it again. Oh, so thicker is not the right word. It need to be thicker just on the top. So it doesn't have to be thicker overall. It just backed off on the top before. Yeah. Not quite. Try it again. Nice. Yes, there. So if you push a bit less of the air, because you push a little bit of air there, that would have been perfect. But that still should teach you like generally what it needs to be like. Maybe a bit less air, a bit less force. But that got to the note with closure. Try it again.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, nice. So if you can imagine a world where you have this kind of weight and this kind of stretch, but you just got better at it, so you don't push through so much air, kind of do all these extra little bits. That's what we're looking for in terms of like closure and stretch. Because notice you do have to add something to get there, and then you have to maintain the closure. If the moment the closure goes away and it's unintentional, you flip or whatnot, that's you've slipped out. Like, and there's like, you can do that 100 years, right? And it might chip away at it a little bit, but it's not going to be as good as kind of here where you've confronted the actual problem. So yeah, so I mean, you can go up higher if you wanted to, but this is probably where like I'd focus on getting a little bit better. Then I go to the F, because when you go from the C to the C sharp to the D to D sharp, you're able to find better reps, but it's progressively getting a little bit harder. So if you wanted to kind of chip away at it properly, you can kind of just like get those a little bit more cleaner, which means you hang on to the closure first, and then you go for the stretch as you've done. If you notice that kind of pushing a bit of extra air, that kind of stuff, just see if you can like trust yourself. Hey, does it need to happen? Doesn't it basically didn't happen to the ones below, and then you can go for the F. But just because I'm here with you today, go for the F.
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Doesn't need to be a lot heavier. Just what you did before.
ooh, 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 ooh,
Find closure first.
ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh, ooh,
Try it again.
ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, when you go for the first rep, still start on that first pitch. Like still get the first pitch right, because if they're all kind of like too low, you're kind of too far from what you need to be.
Yeah.
Like at least start the first note, and then if the rest are flat, that's fine. Just the first note needs
Yeah.
to be there.
Okay. Because I feel like I'm getting stuck at like the fifths.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the fifth is already flat.
Yeah. Well, it's actually flat from the first note. The first
Right.
note was
Okay.
flat. Yeah.
Ooh, 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 ooh,
Yeah. Nice.
ooh, 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 ooh.
Needs more stretch. That closure's still good. Don't lose the closure. How do I get to the note?
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Oh.
Oh, 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 oh,
Closure's good. How do I get more stretch?
oh, oh,
Keep trying. Just your closure's great. It's not moving, at
oh,
least.
oh,
More stretch. Closer. Closer. Now the closures start to slip, so it's kind of a bit of both. You had that stretch there, but you also lost a bit of closure. So I would still prioritize closure first, because that's our intention right now. Try it again. That was closer generally though.
oh, 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 oh.
That's pretty close. That was like, didn't lose a closure, just didn't fully make it to the note. So you have these reps that are really close, and as you get better, you want to aim for those like ones where you're really close, and then
Okay.
you're just trying to adjust at that level. That would be better for your voice. But try it again on this F.
Oh, 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 oh,
Yes. Pretty solid.
Okay.
You got it.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
What do you think?
I think I stretched but lost the closure.
Yeah, exactly. So then now you just got to make sure you hang on to the closure a bit more and get
Okay.
to that same place.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Sounds just flat.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
You got it. So I'm just trying to highlight for you this lesson. The solution is way simpler than you think, but getting there is hard. Like the
Okay.
execution is hard because ultimately we're just dealing with like a lot of very small muscle movements and building that control. So ideally, we would love to get you to a place where like even in your own practice, it's less like, oh, I get to this place in my range and I just start straining and I start flipping and I'm like, I don't know, right? Ideally, it'd be more like what you're doing here, which is like, oh, yeah, it's a little bit flat or the closure starts to slip, but then I can try it again. And like you kind of have the general direction. Even if you don't get it, it's fine. It doesn't matter if you don't get it. As long as you know that's the general direction you're aiming for. And then slowly over time, your margins get narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower until basically it gets to this place where you're like, oh, they just generally work together. It's not this kind of battle anymore. But to get there, you need to be able to kind of shift from like where you started today to maybe like where that halfway point of our lesson was today, where you're like, oh, I can kind of see it myself. But this is why like I'm going to be a little bit more like rigid with the way I want you to practice this next week.
Okay.
So it's basically you have to start off with completely clean thick closure, even if you're flat.
Okay.
Completely clean closure, even if you're flat. Then from there, you're trying to solve how do I get more stretch or to the pitch without compromising closure. Because then it's basically 1 + 1 = 2 versus like what we've done with like there's so many different variables that are changing the technique. The other one, of course, is you can kind of go like, oh, oh, oh. So you let it completely flip first and notice what that feels like. Of course, we're not trying to learn the closure adjustment because that's not what we want. We actually want it to be even. But it kind of teaches us it needs to land in a certain spot. Then, oh, 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 oh. How do I get to that same place with the closure the second time? So this is probably the second option for you right now. So let's do that again. Come back to maybe like the C sharp. Let it fully flip, but make sure you're dead on pitch. Notice what that feels like. And then you add closure to that feeling instead.
Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Yeah, you can even hold it. Oh, hold it out a little bit more. It's like, where is that? And then you go for the second one.
Ooh, 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 ooh,
Yeah, it's pretty close. Next one. It doesn't fully make it up. Try it again. There's a little fight here. If you can feel it, this is key to solving what's happening. But it doesn't fully get to, it's close, but it doesn't fully get to the note. It's almost like just like 10% off. Yes, there's
It's
something about that you need to keep.
like with with falsetto at a low note, I don't feel vibrations or anything for me to grasp onto. Ooh, I don't even know where the sound's coming from.
That's okay. If you don't even worry about that, just focus on getting
Okay.
to the pitch then. What's more important is pitch. So if you go for round 2, it should be like exactly on that pitch.
Oh, 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 oh.
Yes. Now, sorry, I need to add one more thing. So exactly the same pitch, but also if you can, this will really build the details. The vowel needs to be intact as well. So if, you want to get to that pitch, but as you add closure, if it starts to go, and it starts to kind of open out like it doesn't stay that, if the vowel stays a bit more kind of like intact, like the first one, that will be a little bit better because there's a little relationship between the vowel and the pitch as well. Sometimes you can get to the note with closure, but we start to kind of like lose the vowel a little bit. And this is what people get into, like a shouting kind of sound, like spreading. That's because the vowel is compensating,
Okay.
right? Because in pure kind of technique, if we're just getting pure stretch, the vowel and the closure should be irrelevant. So it shouldn't really matter, but typically it does in reality. I'll leave this, honestly, I'll leave this one as more of like a side one because I feel like this one for me feels like it could kind of throw you aside. As in, like, you might be doing it and you're like, I'm not sure. But if you solve it, it actually might take you further. Whereas that first one we're doing where we started from closure, that one felt more manageable. It felt like you can kind of just chip away at it and be like, okay, I just find closure, then I do something that I'm not sure necessarily right now, but at least you can get there somewhat. And then they both should kind of highlight to you technique from just different angles. Because one is closure, then add stretch. How do I do that? Other one is from stretch. How do I add closure? So they both should kind of point towards the same thing. But I think the most important thing right now is I would prefer if maybe you don't come back next week like, oh man, I don't know what's happening around the D sharp. If we can get you there, I think that will build a bit more confidence for you.
Okay.
Yeah. But feel free to do both. But I might do like maybe like 80% of your time for the first one, and then 20% for this next bit. So getting stretch, even if you have to flip.
Okay.
Yep. Nice. Wonderful.